Welcome to Photography Discourse. Before we jump into the topic, what this channel is about is something I'd like to cover. Basically, I'm starting this channel as a place to discuss some photography and to share my opinions as an experienced photographer, but also as a businessman. I've been in photography for over 30 years of my life, had a darkroom for 15 years, so I have a lot of experience with photography. I currently do shoot professional portraits as well as events and weddings and that sort of nature of things. I also have various other business endeavors, and I have an MBA from a top business school in the US. My point in mentioning my background isn't to boast as much as it is to give the audience an idea of why my opinion might be relevant. So, that said, moving on to the topic, Nikon. Nikon, where is Nikon? As I make this video today, it is October 5th, 2022, and we've seen a distinct absence, sorry my hair's sort of messed up, from Nikon lately. We haven't seen products from Nikon. We've seen the Z30 in the last month or two, and another lens that's a white badge Tamron lens, the 17-28 2.8. But we haven't seen the likes of a new FX a full frame FX camera like a Z6 III or a Z8. And we haven't seen the likes of the 85mm, presumably the 1.2. That's been on the roadmap for well over a year. Things like the 200-600, these are lenses that a lot of people are waiting for. We haven't seen them. And it's been a little disappointing, and some think that Nikon may be losing its momentum. And in some sense, I do think they might be. So where is the Z8? And what would the Z8 be if it did come out? And there's really two theories about that. The Z8 is thought to be a Z9 without a vertical grip, and I think that's theory number one. Theory number two is that the Z8 would be like a high megapixel beast with Z9 technology. I think those are the two prevailing theories. I think my belief is that it will be the latter, not the first. Making a Z9 without the extra grip seems illogical to me in many ways. There's reasons for this. I think there's three main reasons. The first is that there's been a trend with Nikon in the past to have their fast, sports-based, sports action-based camera like a D5, and then a D850 as like the studio photographer's high megapixel. And even though the D850 could kind of do it all, it was kind of a jack of all trades. Still, when it came out with 45 plus megapixels, it was really a beast, and many studio and landscape photographers flocked to it, as well as everybody else, because it was so versatile. But I think, so that's one reason. I think Nikon will follow its pattern. The second reason is that I also think that Nikon will be needing a high megapixel camera in the near future. There's no way that they can sit that out when you have the likes of Sony, the A7R4 and the A7R5, I think is coming soon if it's not already out. We know that's already at least 61 megapixels. And Canon, the rumors with the R1 that'll be out sometime late next year is that the R1 should be a very high megapixel camera. And I think that's the trend where things are going, so they can't miss this opportunity. So it also makes sense to me that the Z8 would be this. And again, I don't see the ground that they're covering by just cutting off the vertical grip. It sort of cannibalizes those sales of someone who'd be looking for the Z9 capabilities specifically. And also, the D850 market itself is a huge market of professionals, and it did very, very well for Nikon. That's one of Nikon's best-selling cameras in recent times. It actually put Nikon back on the map in 2017. And the broad spectrum of photographers who bought that, although many enthusiasts did buy it because it was such a good all-around camera, it was also very much a studio photographer's camera, product photographer's camera, a landscape photographer's camera, a portrait photographer's camera. And this whole spectrum of pros that would be using this camera need something in the Z world. And so I believe the Z8 should follow that pattern and and go that way. As to having huge files and whatnot with high efficiency star and things and other codecs, if you will, or compression algorithms like that, I think they will be well to keep the size down anyway. So they're already doing that with the Z9, and they might even offer something like a small, medium, and large RAW format in addition to the high efficiency to keep those files down. But if that's the case, I think a Z8 should be 80 plus megapixels, at least for a large RAW file. For the Z6 III, the Z6 camera has been and always has been, Z6 and Z6 II, always been an all-arounder camera. It's really necessary that Nikon makes this camera an all-around beast. And to do that, it has to at the very least equal, but it should in most senses best the A7 IV, which means it probably will getting a megapixel bump to like 33 megapixels like the A7 IV. And that's another reason why I think the Z8 needs to differentiate itself as a higher megapixel camera. Once the Z6 III is at 33 megapixels, that's getting closer to 45. The differentiation is being lost. So another reason for Z8 to be up there. But that said, I think the Z6 III will definitely have to incorporate all the great autofocus advancements of the Z9, and video advancements. Definitely has to have internal 10-bit and probably RAW, among other things. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know when these cameras probably aren't in. I think these cameras should be coming out this year. And when I say should be, I don't mean that they will. I mean that it would be best for Nikon if they could bring out one or both of these cameras. I don't actually think that's going to be the case at this point. But that's the $64,000 question. It seems like they should put out another full frame camera this year, but I actually don't think that they will. So, and also the other lenses like the 85 millimeter 1.2, I'd like to see that come out this year, but I don't know if it will. So it begs the question, what are the reasons for these delays? Like what's wrong? And I kind of was getting of the opinion that Nikon had downsized so much in their recent corporate layoffs and downsizing of factories that maybe they had gotten to such a small level that they actually just can't produce lots of product across different product lines and a lot of it at the same time, which would explain why we're seeing more of a trickle and also why there's such a backlog of product coming to market even once it's announced. So hopefully I'm wrong about that, but I did notice in Nikon Rumors in the last week or so, they had an article discussing that Nikon had hired 500 new employees and that they were giving raises from, I think, 3% to 20% to some of the existing employees. And that's really good news. It makes me believe that they are addressing maybe some of these shortcomings with having downsized perhaps too much. And so as a result, I think we will be seeing these products coming, but I think we'll be seeing them more next year. Probably a first quarter release for one of the cameras, a second quarter release for another. And I also think there may be a third quarter release of a camera. I think that third or fourth quarter rather, I think that would be probably the fabled Z90, because there's definitely a hole in the DX lineup and it's really necessary that they come out with a D500 replacement. And a Z90 could be basically a crop sensor camera with, like the D9, except without the grip, except with an optional grip, but not a mandatory grip. And there is a need for this. I was shooting my little nephew's soccer game with the Z50 last week, and I was using a Z50 because I wanted the reach of DX, and it just doesn't have the capabilities. It can't track really it just can't track, and so we need a camera that can track that's of DX format, and I think Nikon knows that, and the D500 market was pretty successful for them, so I would expect to see that, but I think that camera is probably late next year, because both the Z8 and the Z6 III are sort of more pressing, I would say, for Nikon at this time. I also do think we'll see several lenses next year. I think we'll finally get the 85 1.2. They might surprise us with the 35 1.2 that they just announced. The 200, 600 I think will come, but I think that'll be at the end of the year, mainly because we have so many telephotos now that Nikon has put out that the need for the telephoto is less, although I know there's a huge market for the 200 to 600 to replace that 200 to 500 f-mount lens. So we'll see. But I do think those will both be coming, or all of those will be coming next year. I think next year is going to be a huge year for Nikon. And I also think that they would be clearing out a lot of their backlogs next year. So hopefully by the end of next year, not only will all this new product be out, but the wait time to get new product will be substantially decreased, if not eliminated. Anyway, that's the video for now. This is Photography Discourse. Thank you for watching. My next video will be out soon. It's going to be a video about some of my portraiture photography, and it's going to feature some of my photography as well as the music of the model who's in the photos. She also does original music, and we're going to feature that as well. So I hope you'll enjoy that, give you a sense of some of what I do in photography anyway. And if you dig this sort of stuff, you know, I would encourage you to like, subscribe, and share the video. If you want to hear my take on the photography industry, I'm not going to make videos all the time, but I will make them from time to time, addressing issues that are current, as well as some other YouTubers' comments. Sometimes YouTubers talk about things that I agree with, or sometimes I disagree, and this will be an outlet to say why. I'm not really here to monetize this channel or get popular. I don't really care about that. More just to have a direct voice to sort of add to the conversation. So if that interests any of you, I encourage you to subscribe. I'd love to have you. So until the next one, signing out. Photography Discourse. My name's Baron. You can see in the comments below my website and my Instagram account if you want to check out some of my stuff. Peace.